the last two, whatever you want to call it. All right. So, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes.
I give up. Man. Would you give me some paper towels, please, Maury? My nose is. Remember, the worldview according to Proverbs is everybody starts out as ignorant and inexperienced, which in Hebrew is petit and nar. You have, I sent you, I made available the little glossary guide, and nobody has it. Okay, fine.
Have it right here. Don.
What? Oh, sorry. God. Yeah, no longer do we get the rustling of angel wings in church. We get the beep, 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 beep.
You said on the donut list today?
Yeah, I just made it up, but why don't you, somebody take care of that? Nikki got it. What am I doing? Oh. Not very well, apparently. Libertarian slogan. Yes. You're the only one that has it.
I don't think that's true.
Okay, fine.
You send it out to all of us.
Everyone,
Right, Jennifer.
everyone that wants it has it.
You left on the chat?
Yeah.
It's just-
He spams the chat, so yeah, that makes sense.
So everybody starts off as a petty and a na'ar. Okay, that's the focus of this. And then by the choices that you make, indicated by the X, you either become a wise person or a fool. And this is, there are no victims in the Proverbs worldview. So a lot of the current victimhood status would not be accepted because life's just unfair. You're born, and the guy born next to you is stronger and faster, and he can kill you in war. Okay, it's not fair, but that's just life. The question is, given your things, what choices do you make? And the choices are moment by moment, day by day. In Proverbs, as we saw last week, one of the things it wants to do is teach you how to make chacham or wise decisions. Don't be a fool. And so it's continually setting up contrasts. And that's what a proverb is a comparison. And when we went through it last time, we went through the first 6 verses. And so now we're kind of at the linchpin of this introduction, which is verse 7, which is it's going to be paralleled by 9-10. But this is this is setting up the entire book. Jeff, what's your daughter's name?
Sydney.
Sydney, you feel like reading for me? Okay. What she say? Hey, can you see this? I can make it bigger.
He has young eyes.
Okay. For everybody else, we'll make it a little bigger. There. Just that one verse. So notice what fools do. They despise. When you despise, you're making a choice. Okay, it's an action. The fools despise Hokmah and Musar. It's actually wisdom and discipline. And they despise it. And they choose that. I think that's what fools do. On the other hand, fear of Yahweh is the beginning of Da'at. Let's go to our little handy key. So fools, all right, the beginning of dot here, knowledge, experiential knowledge. Okay, this word. And fools despise Chokmah, wisdom, and Musar, discipline. The he's really going to lay it on the choice thing. He's not going to allow for you're born with no arms, no legs. Wow, I'm sorry. That sucks. But what's your response? Okay, that's his whole thing. Because life is not fair. And as we saw earlier, however, we must be. But nevertheless, how are you going to respond to it? And it's one of the powers of Proverbs is this. Well, it's the empowerment of the reader. Your life happens, but that doesn't mean you're stuck there. How are you going to choose? How are you going to choose? I'm going to teach you to make wise decisions. That's part of the job. And doesn't mean everything's going to work out, but you can better your life. In fact, as it will become clear as we read this opening section, the Proverbs worldview is, if in fact you do what we say and make wise decisions, you'll prosper and live long. Star Trek, kid you not. Okay, live long and prosper. That's what you get out of this. Is it a guarantee? Of course not. But the odds are, we've all heard the thing, if you get married, stay married, and I forget what the rest of it is, you'll do all right in this country. You know, so that's kind of what he's saying here. So don't do this. And the despise, he's going to go right into that with his first example. Now we're in the first section of Proverbs, which is chapters 1 through 9. And those are a series of longer poems instead of the one verse snippets that we're used to. This is a one verse snippet, but it's the sum of the first 6. And he's got these little longer poems where he's going to extol or pounce on an image. So I want to go to the first one you've heard me talk about before, which always used to freak me out. Sydney, you did a wonderful job, but we will pass the buck. We'll share it. Because Brooke hasn't read. She hasn't been here in a while. Verse 8 for me.
Hear my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching.
Okay. We have to go through verse by verse. It's actually, hear my son, the discipline of your father. Okay. That in this few verses, this word discipline has showed up at least 4 times. And we're in verse 8. And it's a biggie. Hear my son, the discipline of your father, and do not abandon, forsake the Torah of your mother. Now, notice this part. The word pair, father and mother. When we hear Torah and discipline, we kind of expect God. But instead, we're getting father and mother. Because that's what parents do, is they impart the teaching of God to the children. So when you were raising your kids, question, how cognizant were you that you were standing in God's place like this? He asked, expecting an answer.
Absolutely. Your earthly father represents your heavenly father. And he's going to teach you and guide you and love you and correct you.
And your mother, notice that includes the mom. You don't get off scot-free. So what do you say?
I teach obedience, and I teach love, and gentleness, and compassion, and guidance.
So why do you think it does it like that, father and mother, as opposed to say God? What is Solomon doing here?
Because you set up the responsibilities as parents or as humans, maybe.
Well, that'd be part of it. What else? Oh, Don, we don't know, just tell us.
Representation. I thought that should be.
Okay, somebody was talking. Was that Tara? Yeah, you're right behind this microphone thing. All I saw was a disembodied voice. It's kind of powerful that way, by the way. I'm sorry, I was so put up by the disembodied, but can you say it again, please? Yeah. So this is your job, parents.
Can you
And-
repeat that for us, Don? We couldn't hear it.
Tara was saying that the choice of father and mother in this verse is to illustrate our obligation to represent God to our kids. Does that make sense? And we're going to see this over and over in Proverbs. And because this is not prophecy. He's not speaking for God per se. In that sense, you're not going to get thus saith the Lord here. Remember, these are observations. They're looking at the way the world works and say, as a rule, this. And here it's not an observation, it's an exhortation. Don't do this. I find it interesting that the first thing is, son, you got to listen. I'm going to offer you all this wisdom, but it's not going to do anybody any good if you do not listen. You've got to listen. Now, let's contrast that with the next verse. Who is reading? Okay, Brooke, verse 9 for me.
They are embraced garland for your head, pendants for your neck.
Pendants. Okay, why not a necklace? That's all it is. It's got to be a pendant. All right. So, crown for your head, necklace for your neck. These are the adornments that matter, not the adornments of wealth, whatever. So,
And they is talking about instruction.
the instruction and discipline, right? No. Yeah, it's right, exactly. Now let's go on to verse 10, Brooke.
The son sinners entice you, do not consent.
That's why this one. So listen to me. Don't listen to Schleppwad over here.
You pointed at me.
It's actually Kevin, but
Okay.
that would work. If sinners entice you, yes, Mr. Schleppwad, don't go. If they seduce you, don't go. And it's just point blank. Don't do it. Remember the Bob Newhart that we watched in class? Stop. So you have a fear of it. Stop it. $5. And so don't consent. And it always freaked me out. That's what always puzzled me. Why is he saying this? That's so obvious. And remember, I told you, but then it dawned on me one day but you got to say it. You got to, no, don't do that. Don't listen to them. So, in fact, let me give you an example. He says, verse 11, Brooke.
If they say, come with us, we will lie in wait, but let us ambush the innocent without leave.
That's just so bizarre. Hey, let's lie over here and mug these people.
Let's have him kill someone.
Right. Let's lie wait for blood and ambush the innocent without reason. And I said, that's stupid. But then remember, I told you, this was a thought process in my head. I said, people don't rob Quick Trips by accident. They actually plan it. And now how many saw Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction? Am I the only, are we the only ones? You remember when they're in the diner, the young couple, and they're talking, and while they're in the diner, they decide to rob the diner. They have the whole conversation. Hey, why don't we rob it? What? No, well, yeah, sure. Let's rob the. And then they stand over the gun. This is a robbery. And it just struck me. That's what happens. You don't rob a Quick Trip by accident. You plan it. Even if it's only 5 minutes sitting, drinking your coffee and eating your eggs. You plan it. And have the brain to say, no, I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna do that. And he lays it out in stark terms. So you can see this is what they're talking about doing. Why would you do that? Verse 12, Brooke.
Like, hail let us swallow them alive, and whole, like those who go down. the pit.
And Sheol is the abode of the dead. The pit's the other name for that, the grave. And let's roll them up alive. Yeah, that's the ticket. We're not through. Let us further entice you. Verse 13.
Shall find all precious goods, shall fill our houses.
I like it. Booty. I like that. Let us, so all kinds of precious wealth we will find, and let us fill our houses with booty.
The Greek is booty.
The Hebrew.
The Hebrew is booty.
Yeah. Booty is that which is gained by robbery.
I didn't know there was a Hebrew word for booty.
It's not for like a booty call. That should be a different word. Yeah, we're doing the dollar bill game, which to my still don't understand what that all's about. So let's fill our houses with shalal, booty. And you're never gonna look at that and say. Verse 14, Brooke.
Lot among us, we will all have one purse.
So cast your lots with us. We'll have one purse. Doesn't need to be explained. But now he's going to say, hogwash. My little interjection. Go ahead, Brooke.
Son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their path.
Don't do this. Don't. Bob Newhart, stop it. 16.
They make haste.
Which, of course, that's what they said they were going to do. But look at this.
For in vain is a net spread, second and third.
Keep going.
But these men lie in wait for their own blood.
That's what you don't see. They're lying in ambush for blood. It's their own blood. Keep going.
They set an ambush for their own lives.
Man, don't do this. And we suffer from a culture where that conversation has not taken place between parents and their children to the degree that it needs. We're saying, no, don't do that. They may try, but no. Don't do this. Don't sell drugs. It's not the way to make money. Don't do this. Verse 19, Brooke.
Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors.
So thus are the paths of all who extort extortions, literally what it's there. The soul or life of its owner, it will take. Now, how many of you have read Proverbs with your kids? I encourage them to read it. This is important. Any comments?
Yeah, I'm curious at the beginning, it talked about the despising or emphasizing it as a choice, but the rest of it kind of makes sense, but I didn't know if that was something that was part of the nurture / environment also. If you're trained up to say, well, we don't like those guys over there, is that the same as a choice? Do you still have that?
Yeah,
choice?
he's saying, he's telling them, make the choice to not go with them. All right, don't. A fool won't listen to his mom and dad. He'll say, yeah, I teach money, I'm going to do that.
But if mom and dad was telling you,
Well,
I
that's,
don't like those guys. They messed us up, 7 years ago.
so you're talking about bad parents.
Sure.
Right? Which is why these aren't promises or observations. As a rule, Yeah, parents aren't gonna do that, but you'll run into some. Hey, you saw what they did to your brother. Let's take a vengeance. But he lays it out that, well, what do you guys think? Do I'm hard pressed. It happens. Parents telling kids to go into crime. I guess if you're a criminal, that's what you're going to raise your child to. But as a rule, you're going to say, don't do that. In the vengeance mindset or whatever. Yeah, that's a very real possibility. And that's why it's always as a rule. What is that?
It's probably the heat.
Oh, okay. It sounded like a thunderclap. All right, now we move on to a rather famous section. That's the end of that point. But I find it interesting, of all the things he can open up with, he opens up with that. Yeah, don't be a criminal. Don't be stupid. You're just lying away for yourself. Don't.
That's the appropriate place to start, so we can talk about it. The thing says everybody starts off with young and inexperienced. You have to have that. Don't do this. Somebody who works with kids that have to do that boundary of, that's not okay. This will lead to some form of pain or hurt or things of that nature, but that's not where you want to go. And so it has to kind of come out in that sense of somebody has to say that's not good in order to set that boundary for them.
Right, because they're going to learn it a lot eventually. Remember, if you live long enough, you'll get the experience. But you don't want them to spend 3 years in juvie learning, I shouldn't have taken that from the quick trip. Just teach them, don't do that. Which of course works for us as well. Now, changing gears completely. Verse 20, let's have the dulcet tones. Yes.
I tell you to do this without my readers.
You want me to make it bigger, smaller?
I think, wait, so the reason I can't use my readers is Kevin used them this week.
Cooties?
Out and dropped down into a bucket of paint. And so either he could be Miss Christina and just, or he could reach down and pull the lens out and try to clean it up, but it still has much paint on it. And so we're just doing our best over here.
Now with that introduction.
Okay. Wisdom cries aloud in the streets. In the markets, she raises her voice.
What did he say?
Wisdom is a female. It's a feminine.
Right, he's gonna, and it's not the only time that's gonna occur. Now, theologically, Jesus is our wisdom. I just throw that out there. That's expressed in the New Testament. But what does cry aloud in the street? In the market, she raises her voice. What? Okay, what else?
Posting it on social media. I've seen it too.
Okay, which means it's available to. Exactly. Wisdom's not a secret. It's available to everyone. And she's screaming.
But it implies that it's obvious too. Is
Right,
wisdom
that's the
obvious?
point.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of usually the case. So you ask yourself, like, okay, if I want to improve my life, it's usually like, okay, well, if I want to improve my health, what would that look like? Right? Everybody knows the right answer. Sometimes it's not necessarily knowing the right answer. Sometimes it's that like discipline to follow through with those ideas. So, yeah.
Why that sticker, Sydney?
Third segment. And
What?
then-
Yes, you need to walk, Donald. If you're ever going to be able to breathe again, you need to walk. Yes, I do. But I'll sit in my chair and watch TV. Because tomorrow. Right.
Cry aloud in the street, is saying the street, observing what happens
Well, she's saying it's in public, not in secret.
Right.
Okay, so it's available to everybody. He can make that clear in the next verse. Dulcet,
At the head of the noisy streets, she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates, she speaks.
so it's at the mall. It's in the shopping center. It's everywhere. She's there. Here's wisdom. It's not in the secret that only a few can get it. And what does she say?
How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing and fools hate knowledge?
All right, let's use our vocabulary guide. How long, O petties, you ignorant ones, will you love being ignorant? How long will cynics delight in their cynicism? And a different word for fool. And fools hate knowledge. So they despised it in verse 7. And a veal. This is a conceal synonym, but slightly different. They hate knowledge. I mean, despise wisdom and discipline, hate knowledge. Notice it's pegged all three. Don't do that. Don't do that. And how long will you do this? Verse 23. Please, ma'am.
If you turn at my reproof, behold, I will pour out my spirit to you. I will make my words known to you.
Okay, let me retranslate that. Turn is in fact turn, but it's return, it's repent. If you'll turn back to my reproof, my correction. No, slap, don't. Behold, I will pour out to you my spirit, which is an interesting phraseology. You don't get that language much in the Old Testament. It's going to be some Joel, you get it, but that's Pentecostal language. I read a paper at a professional meeting on the charismatic worldview of Proverbs. Proverbs is very much a worldview of a deity that speaks, not memorization of Torah, though obviously Torah is a big deal. But you're dealing with a God who speaks. I will pour out my spirit to you. I'll make known my words to you. Come back to me. So who's going to teach you? What? God's going to teach you. You need a teacher, but he himself is going to pour out his spirit. I'll make my words known to you. And that's wisdom, of course. But all right. Verse 24, Dulcet.
Because I have called and you refuse to listen, and have stretched out my hand and no one is heeded, because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of
What just happened?
my reproof.
Oh, there it is. I'll laugh, but we'll come back to that.
Okay.
So it sets the stage. I called, you wouldn't listen. I reached out to you, no one would grab my hand. You ignored my counsel. And my reproof, you just, I'm not gonna mess with it. Well, I'm gonna laugh at your calamity. I'll laugh because I was more than willing to teach you. Now, that's a little disconcerting. Now, hopefully you haven't laughed at your kids when they blow it. Sometimes you just have to. I told you. Wham. Whatever wham is. What are you saying, Renee? What were you saying?
Just talking about different types of things out of our children. When they swallow 13 cents, I mean, that's just, as a teenager, that's just dumb, right?
And they ate that Tide Pod. Okay.
Was there anything against the little, you get the money back? That's what you're talking about, H and I and all that,
Oh, that's just, usually it's a cross reference, yeah.
because I missed the one recruit had one in this one. That's probably.
And then the net gives you completely different wording. Okay, you ignored my counsel, but have none of my reproof. I will laugh at your calamity. I'll mock when terror strikes you. Well, that's kind of unpleasant. All right, Renee, verse 27.
When terror strikes you like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you.
I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh when all this happens. When everything I told you that was going to happen happens, I'm going to laugh. You're not going to get a whole lot of sympathy, which is an interesting perspective. It's not what we'd expect from God. It's not what parents would do. But wisdom saying, I ain't your parents. You know, and no, life has a brutal way of making its lessons clear. This would be an odd association, but in my head, what I think of is professional golf. I missed it by a stroke. I am not playing tomorrow. That's the rule. There's no fudge room. I missed it by a stroke. I do not play tomorrow. It's just cut and dry. You do this, you're going to bear the consequence. Verse 28.
Then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me.
Too late now. Now you're looking for me. And why is that?
Because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. Would have none of my counsel and despised all my reproof.
We're back to those words. Did not choose, despise. I mean, I'm trying to notice this choice thing. They hated knowledge. They hated knowledge. It's actually what it says. And the fear of the Lord. Now, what is the fear of the Lord? You know, well, I'll just do it. Until you realize that God can squash you like a bug, you do not have a proper relationship. We tend to think of him as my big brother or my best friend or my dad, and dad's not going to squash you like a bug. No, God will squash you like a bug. Now, interestingly, we're commanded to love this guy, love him, and he's not going to squash you like a bug. But you have to realize he can squash you like a bug. So this is not reverence or reverential awe. This is cold-blooded terror. If Shaquille O'Neal is your big brother and he's mad, I guess this big, you seen the commercial. I wish that Shaquille O'Neal was my big brother. It's you know, how many of you guys know my friend Lee? None. Well, Nikki does. I have a big friend. Big friend. He's massive. And we're in his house. And I was walking and he stopped and I didn't see it. I ran into him. I bounced back 12 feet. Said, good grief. He did not move one bit. It was bumping into a wall. He's just a big guy. And this is God. I'll squash you like a bug. And until you realize that, you don't have the fear of the Lord. Mind you, I'm ordering you to love me, and you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. But realize who you're in relationship with, and do not kid yourself. This C.S. Lewis is a lion. He uses a lion. It's not a pet. Or Gandalf when he yells at not Frodo, the other one, Bilbo. I'm not trying to rob you. I'm trying to help you. But you get the full wrath. And you would have none of my counsel. So again, notice this. You made choices. You despise my reproof. 31.
Therefore they shall.
Sorry. Ag!
Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and have their fill of their own devices. For
You eat your own fruit. Go ahead.
the simple are killed by their turning away, and the me will dwell secure, and he will be at ease without dread of disaster.
Okay, so don't rob the quick trip. Choose me. Choose me. And how do we impart that to our kids? How did Jeff get that to you, Sydney? How did he impart that to you? Okay, very thoroughly, I see.
The car rental.
Oh, how did Jeff Hunt impart to you the fear of the Lord and the seeking of wisdom?
I've been thinking about this.
Okay, Nancy, bring something up.
So in this, I was talking to the kids earlier this week about generational sin.
Your kids.
My children, yes, sorry. About generational sin. And I've long thought that generational sin is somewhat related to parents' wisdom and the imparting of wisdom as it goes down through the generations. Because when you have one mess in a generation, then it just leads to the next mess. And you know what I'm trying to say? And so I feel like it's something that this wisdom that God wants us to have helps break that line of generational sin where it just keeps going.
It's the counterpart. You can transport your mess, or you can transport your wisdom. You know, I never knew my dad's parents and my mom's parents. I only knew her mom. So I had no grandparents because my parents were in their 40s when they had me. And so, but I knew my grandmother, she was Granny Goose. But call her Granny Goose. She'd take a thimble and she'd whack me on the forehead. Said, "You're being impudent." Now, a 7-year-old shouldn't learn what impudent means, but I did. I quit being impudent. Stupid thimble on my forehead. But it's not my only memory of my grandmother, but it's a major one. But that's imparting wisdom. Don't be a smart aleck. Oh,
Would you teach this differently in a different group?
meaning,
Like in a group of all homeless people or a different race?
the homeless people, I would teach it the same in the sense that it's, if you're homeless, one of the things you're going to battle is life's been unfair to me. And one of the things this is pointing out is, no, your life is the sum total of your choices. You want to change your life, change your choices. And that's hard. Nobody wants to hear it, but you can say it in such a way, let me give you a chance to take power over your life. Let's take control of your life, make better choices. And since you don't know what a good choice is, let me show you what those choices are, which is what Proverbs is. Yeah, you didn't have any parents, or they were insufficient. So you don't know what a good choice is. Well, let me teach you. Don't go rob the quick trip. Choice 1. Choice 2, seek wisdom and pursue it. And he's actually talking to people like that. Because the hopelessness of homelessness is that you're helpless. And he's saying, no, you're not helpless. You have a role to play in how your life turns out. The major role. Different choices lead to different results. It may take a while to unwind it, but you have control. You are not a victim. That's what you keep pounding. You're not a victim. You're not a victim. You're not a victim. Does that make sense?
I think there are times in your life, I think what you're going with, that truly life has been unfair to you. And you haven't had a choice in a lot of where you have ended up. But in this,
And what would Proverbs' response be to that?
the response is, I mean, to me, you've got to, just for the knowledge that I have, what I'm teaching, you've got to let go and say, Lord, in spite of where my life has been, where it has led me up until now, my choices are based on my past experience and where I can come from. But Lord, how are you going to use me and give me this wisdom in spite of what has been done to me, how I have been mistreated, what unfair things have come my way? How are you gonna use that for your glory in spite of?
So a young child that's sexually abused, no choice, they had that whatsoever. And so that's just unfair. And what you're saying is correct. Proverbs is a little more brutal. They would say, you are right, that is unfair. So what are you going to do about it? That's the response. So how are you going to respond to this completely unfair thing? Now, Proverbs is not the only book in the Bible, and so other stuff comes into play. But as far as Proverbs goes, and the wisdom movement is, yeah, you're right, that really does suck. So what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? And you're going, I don't even know how to respond. No, you don't. So I've written this book to teach you how to respond. You know, does that make sense?
I believe it was written in a time where life wasn't.
Oh. Yeah, disobedient child, stop them. We don't do that as a rule now. Okay, I'm sorry. Dodging the rock.
I also go along this line of generational knowledge and whatever. You also have, a good example was my dad's family. It's got a good sample because there were 8 kids. They all had, back in the farm days, so, but they all were raised in a Christian home. But I can sit there and look at the brothers and sisters and the choices they made. They were in the same environment, but decisions have a lot of bearing on it because they had the same upbringing and all that. But you can see now that you're seeing their kids, their grandkids, their great grandkids, and the choices they've made in the line that it leads to.
Yeah,
It's kind of,
you can see how it plays out. Okay, I'll make a different choice. Check it. Remember when I was 18 and I was with a group of guys getting stoned in college, and I just looked around. I said, I don't end up like these guys. And I got up and I left. It was exactly that. That was one of the few calm moments of my life. Did good there, Donald. It just so that, but it was literally looking at them. I don't want to end up like this. So I got up and left. And that's what you're saying. Yeah. Ooh, no, I'll make different choices. All right. We're going to stop here and we'll pick up here next time. We're going to close in prayer. Wait a minute, Diane. I got to stop recording because everybody says
You were stopping.